I want to start out by thanking you guys for always listening to the podcast, sharing online, sharing the YouTube videos, commenting and liking stuff. So I'm sure you guys want some shirts. So I have some Modified Rides podcast shirts. There's the front, got the logos on. Back, the back is all full color print for everything from small to 4X. Shoot me a message. Message me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Email me, call me, smoke signals, whatever you want to do. Get you one of these shirts. Like I said, everything from small to 4X are $25 a piece. No upcharge for some of the larger sizes. If you need them shipped, they're going to be $10 extra to ship just because shipping's gotten crazy. But shoot me a message, get your shirts while I still have them. Now, check out the episode. Welcome back to another Modified Rides podcast. Today I have someone I've worked with before on a photo shoot or two. It's kind of big in the aftermarket world as well as the OEM world and automotive space. Let's welcome Shaun Freilich with Complete Customs. What's going on, Shaun?
How you doing, brother? Good to be here.
Good. You're what city you in down in Texas?
We're in McKinney, Texas, just north of Dallas.
Okay, so you're down with the heat right now.
Man, it's miserable. it's 100 plus, has been for a while, but it's we live in Texas, so we know when it's coming, so we try to prepare as best as possible.
You have AC in the shop, I guess.
I do not. I do not. In fact, we're just signed a lease on a little smaller space down the street so that we can do all of our vehicle wraps, PPF, and window tint in that facility that is climate controlled. Just because when it's hot, like it's tough for all the guys, but specifically when you're messing around with vinyl and any kind of film, it makes their job that much difficult. So finally we were like, hey, until we get into our new facility, which will be climate controlled, by the way. So when we get to that point, everybody will be very happy. But until then, we're actually just signed a lease on a spot down the street to help us get through the heat.
Nice. So I first met Shaun, I guess it was SEMA 2013. Got introduced to Shaun, I guess through Robbie Bryant, probably.
I believe so, yeah.
And I wound up shooting a dually he'd built for SEMA that year for the cover of, what was that?
8 Lug.
For the cover of 8 Lug, yeah.
Yeah. Dodge, right? Wasn't it a Dodge Ram?
Yep. I don't remember what booth that was in. Was that a Fusion?
Oh, I think it was Fusion.
Kelderman.
No, I don't think it was or was it in Kelderman? I don't even remember. We've built so many since then. But yeah, I remember that truck.
So those that keep track on what happens at SEMA, that was also the year of, no, it was the next year was the year of the crunch heard around the world, the Lambo killer.
yeah, a Ferrari killer, I believe is what it was called. Yeah, that went viral before I even knew what viral meant. Somebody recorded it, and one of our OGs, one of our original employees, Luis, he was driving that thing. And that was the first year they did SEMA Ignited. That's what it was.
I was two cars behind the Jeep he was driving.
Oh, you were right there in the mix. Yep. And I was actually inside. I think that year we had like 15 vehicles at SEMA. So the whole team was spread out, on Friday at 4:00. You know how that gets crazy.
Yep.
And I got a call from Luis, and he's like, hey, man, I just tapped the back of the Liberty Walk Ferrari. And I'm like, okay, I knew he was in the Jeep, and I'm thinking just tapped the Liberty Walk Ferrari. That doesn't add up, right? There's no just tapping. And he made it seem like not a big deal. And before I could hang up the phone, my phone went crazy. And I'm talking like, people that were there, people that, friends of mine that lived in other states that didn't even have anything to do with the automotive industry. Like that went viral so quick. And unfortunately, he was they were all lined up trying to get out. First year for SEMA Ignited.
It was trying to get into the parking lot for Ignited.
Yeah, they were trying to get it ignited, but everything was getting out of the convention center, headed over to the parking lot. Yeah. So that's where all that traffic was, and it was the first year they'd done that, and it was a cluster, to say the least. And he's in this big lifted Jeep, and there's this slammed Ferrari in front of him, and this guy's waving him on, and he can't see really. didn't help that we had, vinyl stickers on the windshield either. And
Ricky Bobby
the guy
mode.
waves him, exactly right. The guy waves him on, and he just crunches the back of it, man. And he literally went up kind of on the back of it like this, and then just nonchalantly backed off. And of course, there were several people recording. One guy had the perfect angle, and it went viral.
Yep. I remember the next year at SEMA when I saw him, I was like, "Hey, is Shaun letting you drive anything when you leave the show?"
Yeah, Luis was he handled it like a champ, and Cato, the owner of Liberty Walk, he handled it like a champ. He ended up walking over there at some point, and then at SEMA Ignited, we did all kinds of interviews with them, and a lot of it was in another language. So I'm like, they're probably totally cussing us out. We don't even know it right now, but they were great. Cato was a great guy and handled it like a true professional.
Well, I know Luis was the one that brought the Ram to me for that before sunrise photo shoot out there in Red Rock. So I think you said you had to stay up late the night before, so you couldn't get up that early. So, but I don't think he ever went to bed.
Man, I mean, I don't miss those shoots. I'm gonna be honest with you. But when we first started doing SEMA and first opened the shop, I mean, that was, and it still is, right? But the fact that I got Del Martin in my backyard,
Yep.
I don't typically shoot it in Vegas no more. We handle it all when we get back. But the first few years of shooting at SEMA, man, I am not a morning person, and I don't miss those 5 o'clock call times out in the middle of the desert. I mean, some of them were good experiences, but I mean, there's been some. It was cold, windy.
Yep.
I remember one time it was actually our first one we did with Max. Was it Max from Trucking back in the day?
Yeah.
So we did a big F-250. I think it was our first build out of Complete Customs, actually. So that would have been 2011, if I'm not mistaken. It was a big Ford F-250. It was in the RBP booth, and we did these exhaust tips on the back of it that were like this big. And this was before social media was like a big deal, but I mean, people were sticking their heads in these exhaust tips in the booth, and that was what we wanted to get some engagement. That was like when I sat down with the RBP team and rolling over there. It's like, how can we create something that just creates, some engagement, people walking by? So that's what we came up with, right? So I go to take that truck out into the desert at Saturday morning at 5 a.m. to shoot with Max, and he's like, "Look, man," he goes, "I can't shoot that truck with those big ass exhaust tips. You got to take them off." So here I am, 5 a.m., hardly any tools in the middle of the desert, trying to get this full exhaust system off the back of this F-250. I don't even remember how I got it off. I think somebody stopped and helped me out or whatever. We stashed it in these bushes over to the side, went and did the shoot, came back, and somebody felt like they needed that exhaust system more than we did because they took it before we could even get back to get it back and put it back on the truck. So, but yeah, I don't miss those early mornings out there in the desert.
Well, the spot that I shot the Ram at was out in Red Rock. I had a buddy that lives out there. He's like, "Man," he's like, "we got this spot that we use. It's the opposite way of the lake bed, so you're going to avoid that traffic in the morning." That was the first truck I'd shot there, and I didn't even know that truck was going to be covered. Didn't know American Force was going to use it in their ads. It just kind of happened. But I've shot at that location every year. My cranberry cover was shot there. I shot. Whatever, a C10 cover there. Like, there's been a couple different covers I got hanging in here that I shot there after yours was the first one. So,
Nice.
well, I guess let's start back at the beginning though. So when you were a kid or whatever, did you know you wanted to play with custom vehicles?
Man, my grandparents owned a junkyard in California. I'm originally from, California, high desert area, Victorville, Apple Valley, that area. And my grandparents owned a junkyard out there. I ended up moving to Texas when I was, 1 or 2 years of age. And, but every summer I would go back and visit my grandparents for the entire summer. And they owned the junkyard, right? So, I remember as a kid, just, that was my playground. That was my backyard was just, at first I would go back there and unfortunately I would destroy these cars, throw rocks, break windows, jump on the hoods, jump on the rooftops or whatever. And then,
It was a
as I
junkyard.
got a little bit older, my grandfather caught me out there one day and sat me down and, was like, "Look, this is my way of providing, for your grandmother and you guys and, whatnot. And, this is my livelihood and this is what a car represents." And he just sat down and gave me a good old talk about, vehicles in general. And I think that's really when I started to understand and evaluate what a car was. And, how important it was to transportation needs, or, he was a hot rod guy. So, seeing some of his hot rods and understanding them a little bit more, I think that's probably the timeline, the time frame where I started to take interest into them in a different way than it just being a playground.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just, I never really thought about it being my business, as far as when I got out of school, like, how that was going to translate into my career. When I got out of college, I think I'd actually went to SEMA in 2008, and I built a Toyota Tundra, ironically enough, with a shop out in Odessa, Texas. And that whole process just, it was fun to me. Designing the truck, with Robbie over at Keg Media. That was the first truck I ever had an opportunity to work with Robbie, is when I first met Robbie at Keg Media. So that whole process was super cool. I made sure back, in '08 to go talk to all the people that I had talked to that had sponsored me as far as
Yeah.
sending parts, or, giving us a discount on parts. I went and shook all their hands. I wanted to meet them in person, again, way before Facebook and social media, Instagram and all that.
I feel the same way about SEMA, though. It's more of a way to put a face with an email address. Somebody you've been
100%.
dealing with, or on the phone, you can actually say, "This is who I am," and that
Yep.
person's going to remember you next time they see you.
Yeah. So again, I mean, having that ability to do that back in '08, meeting all these people, I think it was so '08. So then 2010, I designed another truck, built it through another shop. Again, I didn't have Complete Customs at the time, and Complete Customs wasn't even a thought. Went back, and that year is when a lot of the guys that I had met in '08, worked again with in 2010, were like, dude, you need to open up a shop. Like, you have an eye for design. You live in Texas. The market in Texas is crazy. At the time, I mean, everybody was still kind of rebounding from the, just the hard times of what we were going through in those years. But Texas was thriving. I mean, at the time I lived in West Texas, which is, oil field money, and guys were still building trucks and stuff like that.
What was you
So
doing at that time? Where was you
I
working
was going
there?
to college. Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
college. My family and whatnot, they were in the environmental company, in the environmental business, within the oil field. I just never got into the oil field. I mean, that's what all my friends and growing up in West Texas, that's all there really is out there. It's oil and gas. But I saw the ups and downs of the industry. You know what I mean? I've seen the
Yeah.
recession come a handful of times as a kid and as a young adult out there. And I was like, I don't want to be involved in this industry. I mean, there's too many variables that are dictated that you can't control. So I just never got interested in the oil field. And I think in 2010, that's really when I was like, you know what, I could see myself potentially owning a shop. Obviously my passion is designing and coming up with a cool concept of what a vehicle could be. I've never been a fabricator or a painter or anything of that sort. I mean, thankfully, the team that I have in place, that's what they're passionate about, and that's what they're good at.
Did you go to school for any of that design stuff, or what
I
did you go
did
to school
not.
for?
No, I didn't go to school for anything related to basically what I'm doing at this point in my
No, no.
life. Which you hear those stories all the time, but so yeah, that's where it all kind of started. To where in 2010 it was like, okay, let's look at what this could possibly look like. I was moving to the Metroplex at that time, to the Dallas area, so I knew I had a bigger a bigger opportunity, as far as being in front of a bigger customer base, as far as just
Yeah.
being in West Texas. And 2011 we started Complete Customs, and the rest is history.
So how did you come up with the name Complete Customs?
Man, that was a whole nother ordeal. I think that's really when I should say that's probably when Robbie reevaluated our friendship, because there was a lot of back and forth, and Robbie, from Keg, helped me with that whole process. And eventually we landed on Complete Customs after probably 6 months of trying to figure out what our name of the company was going to be, and even the logo. But back then the goal was always Complete Customs. The name of that came from eventually wanting to own a shop that could be a one-stop shop,
Yeah.
that we could do everything from start to finish on any type of project. So the logo, or the name, that's where the concept came from. And we knew it was going to be in time that Complete Customs would be able to facilitate all that. We didn't have no timeline. We just knew the end goal was going to be you could bring your truck, your car to Complete Customs, and we could handle everything from fabrication, upholstery, paint and body, whatever that looked like. Now, is that how it started off? Not at all. We started off in a small 1,500 to 1,800 square foot building, one bay, just me by myself for a little while. And then we eventually hired Luis, which is the guy that was driving the Jeep
Yeah.
that ran over the Ferrari. He was our number one employee. And then from there, it escalated pretty quickly. It really did.
So how did you go from not working at a shop? I mean, had you always been tinkering on stuff like at your own house at that point?
Man, I mean, back in the junkyard days, yeah, I was tinkering with some stuff, but to say that I, could take something apart and put it back together would not, I'd be lying to you. You know what I mean?
You
But
just
I would
jump
mess
in
around.
feet
Yeah,
first, and went
I'd
with
mess
it.
around with some of my stuff, but again, I can't take any credit for any of the things that we build to say that I'm out there fabricating and doing the things that our team does out there. So but my intentions were when I opened that shop up, when we opened up Complete Customs in 2010, I was going to be the installer, I was going to be the sales guy, and I was for the first part of it. And thankfully, Luis, he kept pestering me to hire him. He worked at a window shop next door, a tent shop, and he kept pestering me to hire him. And this is, I mean, we were still kind of like redoing the facility, like cleaning it up, painting the walls, like setting up a counter and doing all these things. And thankfully, he was persistent to enough to where I ended up hiring him. And then, I mean, it took off so quickly. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how it all just transpired so quickly. And then from there, we just were able to continue to add to the team. And I mean, now we're 30 plus team members out there just, crushing it.
So did you start day one with the SEMA builds
Yeah, definitely. That was the first thing that we started working on.
to get
And
your
I
name
and
out
actually,
there?
yeah, so yeah, we that was our first big project. So it'd have been 2011 is when we had, I think that year we just took the one build, and then I think the next year we had 10 plus, and then from every year from there we've done 10 plus every year, it seems like, since the
What was the
beginning.
first one?
The first one for Complete Customs was that black F-250 I was telling you about with the big
Okay.
exhaust tips that was in the RBP booth. I think that was our first one as Complete Customs, and
That
I
was
think
your
that year,
third one that you had
that
done.
was that was my third one, as far as SEMA. But like I said, the other two that I had done that got me in the industry in '08 and 2010, were through other shops. But again, that's where I created the
Yeah.
relationships, started to understand the industry a little bit more, and then I started to take interest in, hey, I'm going to college to do this, but I'm really not passionate about it. I'm super passionate about cars. Like I said, I'd met some great guys that are still friends of mine, from Thomas Fitcher from Infab, Roland Trudell that started RBP. The list just goes on and on of these guys that, I was able to meet early on in my career that ultimately helped me get to where I'm at now.
So how did you make the transition from the one SEMA build one year to 10 the next year?
I don't know. I mean,
That
I
would give
obviously,
some of these guys starting out hope that, hey, I can build something, and then if
oh,
I
for sure.
push hard enough, I
Yeah.
can do more. So how did you make that transition from 1 to 10 or 10
So, I
plus?
mean, I obviously, again, how I got in the industry was through SEMA, right? So
Yeah.
I was partial to it, right? I mean, this is how I got in the business. This is how I met these individuals that have helped me get to where I'm at. And then I think when year two came around, we had built, so much. Um, I mean, the direction we were going already, like we had got a pretty big following pretty quickly. Um, Again, it all happened faster than I could even imagine. So when year two came around, we had manufacturers reaching out to us. We had individuals reaching out to us to build vehicles for SEMA. So, I mean, a big part of our business for the first few years was SEMA because, I was able to look at it from a business standpoint and also a marketing standpoint, right? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's mainly marketing, right? For a lot of these individuals, and whether it be shops or manufacturing. But, when I was able to start evaluating it into a business, and a lot of this conversation was early on with Robbie with Keg Media, because he quickly started to manage projects and builds, and still does to this day for SEMA. But actually being the shop owner and working directly with a lot of these manufacturers, it opened up a lot of opportunities. So for me, I looked at it like, hey, that's Q4. That's our business for
Yeah.
Q4 in Complete Customs. We are going to focus on building vehicles for SEMA, get paid, right? So I mean, it's if it was a regular retail customer, I evaluated it the same way because it was profitable for our company. And again, that's what I felt like is what's helped us grow the way that we have been able to. You know what I mean? We still obviously very involved with SEMA, but I think the days of building double digit vehicles, even though I think this year it's already gotten to double digit, is come
Oops.
and gone. I mean, it's a different situation this year
Yeah.
as to previous years where we're working with several different individuals, several different aftermarket manufacturers. Where now most everything we're doing, we have a couple of shop builds which we do every year. Typically I'll try to build 2 to 3 shop builds, which are vehicles owned by Complete Customs, and then we'll have a couple of manufacturers, aftermarket manufacturers is typically what we would do. Obviously now we do, we work directly with Toyota and Lexus. So the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, we've worked with them directly on building some of their booth vehicles, and or working with their motorsports garage. Marty over there, we work with him every year on a big project. They'll do all the heavy lifting on those projects, from the design to the heavy fabrication. Then we'll come in and help do paint and body, upholstery, anything else that they need assistance with on their bigger projects that they feature in their booth every year for SEMA as well.
Well, that's something I definitely want to get into, is the whole Toyota aspect. So when you were first, the second, third year in or whatever, you were doing several builds for Robbie at that time, weren't you?
Yeah. We used to do a lot with Robbie, his personal ones and his clients that he would, be managing.
Well, I know. I guess the year I met you, like I'd already knew the name. If that was y'all's, see, 13 would have been y'all's third year doing. See, 11, 12, yeah, third year doing SEMA.
Yep.
When I first got introduced to you, you rolled deep that year. That was the first time I'd been back since '09 to SEMA, and it's like when you see a shop like yours in all the booths in all the areas, like it, you see that logo everywhere. Like, all right, well, this guy's doing it big. And then, like I said, then I reached out and said, hey, can you line this up to shoot this feature for us? I was like, yeah, for sure. So it's kind of cool. I didn't realize I was that close to the beginning. Meeting up with you that close to y'all's starting the shop.
Yeah.
So I guess the SEMA builds actually help bring you customers in the rest of the year because they see the caliber of stuff you're building, and they know that, okay, well, I don't have something that extent, but it's still somewhat to another level, and they entrust you guys to handle it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, it was SEMA was good for us on the marketing side as well. Being able to give us some street cred right out of the gate. Like you said, it was early on that we opened the shop up, and we're able to, within 2 or 3 years to have a big presence at SEMA. People recognize that. You know what I mean? People see that. To say that we didn't get any return from that would not be true by any means. People from all over the country go to SEMA. So I mean, we started to get calls from people from all over the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, guys, we did some stuff for some guys from Russia that were there seeing some stuff, and we ended up building them a couple of trucks. This was early on as well. Athletes, a lot of the pro athletes, I think that gave us, we were obviously in the Dallas area, home of the Dallas Cowboys. You know what I mean? So I think that being able to again, social media was really kind of coming around at that point in time as well. But being able to be on that platform, build some of the type of builds that we had, definitely gave us an upper hand when it come to being able to get in front of the right people, not necessarily the right people, but the individuals that wanted to have these types of builds done. Right. I mean, some of the builds we were doing back then were, not for everybody.
Yeah.
We were doing crazy big lifted stuff, trucks, Jeeps, you name it. And that's kind of what we built Complete Customs around. To be honest with you, our original followers and people that knew Complete Customs was from the truck scene, the big lifted stuff. And now, I mean, we do very little of those types of builds, and not because people are not still building those trucks. I mean these guys, that have come in behind us and started building these big lifted trucks have taken it to a whole nother level as far as, these lift kits and, all the things that they do to them now. But for us, obviously at some point we were able to start working with some OEMs, start doing some other things to where, from a business side of it, it was like it opened up a lot of other opportunities that I couldn't have never dreamt up. I could have never imagined it. I never thought about it when I was putting my business plan together. So it definitely helped us get to where we're at now, and opened up a lot of doors for us along the way.
So I guess on the whole Toyota Lexus avenue, how did you link up with that? Because anybody that's dealing with the shop, you have your regular customers, but to have an OEM manufacturer the size of Toyota step up and say, we need you to do stuff for us is probably every shop owner, every painter, every builder's dream. How did
Right.
you link up with Toyota?
Man, so quick story on that. Thomas Fitcher from Infab, great friend of mine. He is one of the guys that I first worked with back in 2008. You know what I mean? I had all Infab products, on my truck, on my
Which is
Tundra.
now part of Truck Hero, Real Truck, right?
Yeah, he ended up selling the Truck Hero, which is now Real Truck.
Yeah.
But so I had all his products on my first build at SEMA in 08. 2010, I built like I said, I designed and built a good friend of mine's truck, had all Infab on it. So again, a lot of credit to Thomas to get me into the industry early on, right? Motivate me to open up a shop. I remember calling him at all hours of the night, asking him questions, and he would always pick up and answer those calls and whatnot. Fast forward, I think it was 2000, probably 2016-ish, 16 or 17, Toyota moved from Torrance, California to Plano, Texas.
Oh, I didn't know
Their head-
that.
yeah, their headquarters is literally, 20 minutes from where we're at right now, right? Eventually, that's where they eventually built their new headquarters.
Yeah.
So when they came over here from Torrance, they moved most of their team over here, so everybody that was from California, a lot of them moved over here and set up shop in the temporary office building and whatnot. Well, obviously they didn't have all the contacts that they had in California, from in this particular case, they needed a vehicle wrapped for a marketing event, right? So another gentleman that works for a company directly with Toyota had reached out to Thomas Fitcher. Thomas lives in Houston, and said, hey, do you know any reputable shops in the Dallas area? And, without a blink of an eye, Thomas is like, yeah, reach out to Shaun at Complete Customs. And this individual reached out to me, and I think we ended up doing like a small wrap, like on a side of a Camry or something like that. And they actually came and picked the car up from our facility, and then they saw obviously everything else that we had the ability to do.
Yeah. In
So at
house.
that point, it was like, hey, can you do this? Can you do transport? I had one of my big trucks and trailers out front that we would use to haul our big lifted trucks and Jeeps to all the shows that we used to go to back then and whatnot. And it just, at that point, it was like, wow, this is a huge opportunity, to be able to work with a company, an OEM. Like you said, it's a lot of shop owners' dreams. And to say that I even dreamt it up wouldn't be true either, because I could have never envisioned. For one, they weren't here. They had just moved here from Torrance, and that was a big deal in the car industry back then, that they had left California to move to Plano, Texas. And so again, yeah, I mean, it started off. I tell the story all the time. Thomas got me in this industry back in 2010, 2011. And then Thomas, got us an introduction into Toyota, and the rest is history. I mean, we've been able to provide and grow with Toyota and Lexus on all levels. I mean, in every different department. I mean, we work with them on, prototype code red projects to, marketing builds to logistics, for commercials that you see on TV. Obviously the SEMA vehicles. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
Now, didn't you do one that was in the SEMA booth this past year for
Yeah.
Toyota?
So we've been able to do a handful of builds that you have seen featured in the Toyota booth. Our first significant build that was in the Toyota booth was a Tundra that we did for Kevin Costner. That was a while back. I think that was 2017, I think, maybe. They were doing a deal with Costner at the time. We flew out to his home on 3 different occasions and designed this Tundra to accommodate his needs. And we built it. Again, Thomas actually from Infab helped with that whole project, and that really is where things started to take off for us on a much higher level. And then from then till now, we'll work with Marty over at the Motorsports Garage, which is part of HQ, where they build a lot of really cool vehicles. And so I think it's been the last 4 or 5 years we've been able to assist Marty in some of the builds that they do internally. So they'll, like last year was FJ Bruiser.
Yeah.
So again, Marty and his team fully designed and developed and fabricated that amazing vehicle, and we were able to play a small role in the paint and body and in the upholstery of it all. And then the year before that, it was the Rally Corolla, same thing, designed and built by Marty and his team, and we did the final fit and finish paint and body upholstery. Year before that was Tacozilla, that was a big one, which was the Tacoma with the big camper shell on the back of it.
Oh yeah.
And then that was also the year that they came out with the new Tundra, and we helped them with that one as well. They did a big, nice long travel setup, carbon fiber fenders and bedsides, and we helped with all the body work and paint and body on that one as well. But then we've done other smaller projects. Toyota has their big partnership with different aftermarket manufacturers, which is their AAP program. So like this year we'll be working on most every vehicle you see in the booth, but a lot of them are just a stock vehicle with all the different aftermarket accessories that you can now go buy through the dealership, which is really cool. I think Toyota's really thought outside the box to be able to give the consumer the opportunity to somewhat customize their vehicle straight from the dealership, and everything be included on their loan, and be able to do everything right there at the dealership, and doesn't mess with any of the warranty of the vehicle and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there'll be a handful of those this year that we'll be doing. So to call them full on builds wouldn't be fair, but definitely helping them with what those vehicles represent in their booth.
So with I guess that's been, say, 11's 21. This is your 13th years as a shop having stuff at SEMA. What has been your favorite build during that time, whether it be yours or a customer's that you've had your hands in?
Man, I mean, there's a bunch of them. I'm looking at one right now. Obviously, it's on my wall, so I can't show you. But we did a camo Jeep. And I think that was 14, maybe
That's one me
2014.
and Dale talked about that was on the first lifted leveled.
There you go. Yeah, you
Yep.
guys did talk about it. So
Yeah.
that one really like put us on the map. That was a cool build. I mean, people were already putting big wheels on Jeeps and all the light bars and whatnot. So to say that we were the first one to do that wouldn't be fair. But we did. A lot of people were doing the Kevlar paint. The guy that was actually doing a lot of them in the Texas area, I got with him. I was like, dude, how can we take this to the next level? Really want to do a camo themed Kevlar paint job. And he's like, man, let me play around with it. They crushed it. All the whole build came together, and it was a cool build. I think that was probably the first one that really put us on the map. That's how I got introduced to Dell. I mean, my favorite one would definitely be this one behind me. This is just a rendering of it.
I figured that's where you were going.
Yeah. So this one we unveiled last year, 68 GMC. This truck was given to me by my grandparents that owned that junkyard out in California. So as a kid, I would drive this truck in the desert, and play around with it. Eventually, one summer, I started taking it apart and never got it back together. So, only got a couple of years driving it out there in the desert. And, but it was my first truck. It was my grandparents gave it to me. It was my first vehicle. It's how I learned how to drive. And when we opened up the shop, I think it had been 2012. We had already started gaining some really good momentum in the lifted truck scene, right? And
Yeah.
I wanted to, showcase that, eventually what we would be doing at Complete Customs. Again, going back to that name, Complete Customs, I was like, let's build this truck. And this is the original rendering. This is the same rendering from 2012 when Robbie did this rendering at Keg Media. And we started building it. Again, I didn't have a facility like we have now, so I was subbing out, metal fab, paint and body, so forth and so on. My best friend came down and helped me weld the frame together with all the porter built components and stuff like that in our shop. And the guy that I was working with that was doing all the paint and body was an older guy named Frank Wagner, such a great guy. And unfortunately, he had some health issues that year. So I remember, getting closer to SEMA, and I remember having to sit down with Robbie, and he was helping with this whole project. He's like, Shaun, this truck's not going to get done. There's no way that you have enough time to get this truck done and get it done at the caliber that you're going to want it to be done at. So I had to pull the plug on the project. We ended up that year taking the rolling chassis, and had the motor in it, the wheels, tires, brakes, all the suspension to SEMA, and it was out there on the Nitto Pass. Thankfully, social media wasn't big back then because we probably would have gotten roasted because we didn't even have time to do the alignment of the front wheels. I mean, like it showed really nice, and it was what it was.
It was SEMA ready.
It was SEMA ready, and I don't even know if it was SEMA ready, but it was there. And unfortunately, that project, over the years has just been sitting in either my storage facility or my shop or the corner of this shop. And last year, about midsummer, probably about, it was probably probably June of last year, my team huddled up and they're like, hey, let's finish this truck, man. We're tired of looking at this thing. We know you want it done. We have the team, to really take this thing over the top. So I mean, they dove into it. We dove into it, and they got it done. So it was, unveiled last year at SEMA in the Venom tire booth. And, my Meemaw was actually able to come to SEMA that Friday and see it for the first time. And her and I drove it out, that Friday evening. So I would say that would be our most significant, just, build that we've done that just, has a lot of meaning to it. It's been able to obviously showcase where we've come to this point now because, there was a lot of work done on it previously, but we ended up redoing all the metal fabrication on it. We handled everything in house, from all the metal, redo of the metal fab, paint body, all the upholstery, the motor, all of it was done, by our team members out there in the shop. And so again, it was a perfect way, almost 13 years later to showcase, what we're able to do here at Complete Customs from start to finish.
Well, I know you touched on it earlier, the transport side of the company. I remember when you first posted that, a few years ago saying, hey, we're looking at adding, the transport side of things. Now you do quite a bit of that for some of your regular clients like Toyota.
Yeah. So we have a logistics company. It's called Complete Customs Transport Car Prep. Again, just the other opportunities that came through the relationship with Toyota opened up. They were in need of a transportation company here locally to help with some of their shoots and things that they had going on. So we were able to kind of start a whole nother separate entity, to help, with their needs when it comes to transportation. And then now we've grown that into, we got 10 plus trucks and trailers, that we, haul vehicles for Toyota Lexus all across the nation. So, a lot of the commercials that you'll see on TV for Toyota and or Lexus is a good possibility that our company handled the logistics of those vehicles to those locations. And then our team members, took care of those vehicles throughout that production shoot, filming that commercial. So, when they're filming a commercial, we all get to see it on TV and get to see the cool area, the cool cars, whether it's a family having a picnic out in the mountains or, whatever it is. But, being able to be on the other side and seeing how those commercials are put together, obviously the star of those commercials are the vehicles themselves. So that's our, that's our client, right? That's who we have to take care of, that vehicle or vehicles. So it's been a whole nother experience, that's part of the automotive industry that I could have never dreamt up or never thought about, being a part of like we are.
Well, like I told Dale, anytime you're anywhere near me for any of these shoots, let me know. I'll come just kind of hang out and, just to see how that aspect of it works. So,
yeah. I mean, you guys, Dale, yourself, photographers, it is definitely a whole nother experience shooting on this side of it. So yeah, anytime we're up in your area, we can get you out there to check it out. I mean, if you haven't experienced any kind of OEM production shoot, it's definitely, check it out, because
Yeah.
it's a whole nother ball game, and it's something cool to watch. I mean, some of these shoots we're on, there's 100+ people running around, from the production company, from the ad agencies, from the talent, to everything that it takes to put together these commercials. And again, just I got a new respect for, seeing any commercial for that matter,
Yeah.
but specifically, any kind of vehicle commercial, especially when you see them, off-roading and doing those types of shoots. I mean, we'll have to shoot those and get them all muddy, and then we gotta make them spotless in less than sometimes 10 minutes to then reshoot it because they want to get a different angle or something like that. So it's a cool job. It's an experience within itself, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah, definitely keep me anytime you're in the Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee area. Oh, I'm down
Mhm.
to come hang out for sure.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about it some before we got on. I guess you're getting ready to start growing even more than what you've already grown in the last decade with the shop, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So, we're in McKinney, Texas right now, just north of Dallas. We're in a 20,000 square foot facility. We've been in this building for a little over 8 years now. It's been an amazing building for us.
So you didn't stay in that 1,500 square foot shop long then.
No, we didn't. We didn't. We were there maybe 2 years before it was time to move on. It might have winded up being 3 years by the time we locked this place in. So we went from that spot to the spot that we're at now. And moving in here was an accident. We never planned to move into a 20,000 square foot facility back then. We were actually looking for about 8 to 10,000 square feet so that we could start providing more services, paint and body.
Yeah.
We wanted to get into doing fabrication, stuff like that. And I met this guy named Charles Holybar that owned the building at the time. And we had a mutual friend. And I remember being in this facility one night, the first time we'd ever walked it. It was just four walls. It's a tilt wall, 20,000 square foot building. And it was raining. And I remember sitting in the middle of the building, and this guy, Charles, telling me, like, I'm gonna cut you a good deal, and you're gonna be in this building, and one day you're gonna be busting out of the seams of this building. And again, I just met this gentleman, old school guy.
Yeah.
And I said, Charles, man, I said, I was under the impression you were going to divide this shop in half, and section it off. And I said, I don't have any business sitting there talking to you about renting this whole building. There's no way, you know what I mean? And he's like, yes, sir. He goes, you're going to rent this whole building from me. And he goes, I'll call you on Monday and I'll get you a price. And I'm like, okay, I'll wait for your call on Monday, sir. No, no, thank you, and we'll talk then. And he called me that Saturday, and he gave me a smoking deal, to say the least. He really he took a chance on us, man. He really did, and we ended up moving into this facility. And now, some years later, we were eventually able to buy the building from him. He's since passed on, but such an impactful person for us, as far as, where we're at now, from a business and a personal side of things. But yeah, to go back to the new facility. So we bought some land about 12 minutes north of McKinney, which is in a city called Van Alstyne, Texas. And we bought 5 acres out there. And like Mr. Holybar said, about 8 years ago, you'll be busting out of the seams of this building one day. And indeed, that's where we're at. Like, we don't have parking. Our shop is completely filled. We can't add no more to our staff. I mean, we have no more space
Yeah.
for growth. So our new facility will be 26,000 square feet, and it's completely designed to what our needs are. So meaning the whole facility, every square inch of the building is accommodating all of our different departments and needs of what we need to build these vehicles.
So you're not going really much bigger than what you have now. You're just realigning how it's set up.
Yeah, so right now we're 20,000 square feet. We're going to 26,000 square feet, but we have a lot of dead space in this facility because it was just a warehouse space when we moved into it. So we've made it work, and we've adjusted over the years to the space that we have. But the space that we're building, we've worked with all the top, architect company. The architect company here has helped us design the overall building, and then each department we've worked with people that specialize in laying out, the blueprint of how, a shop needs to be efficient, right? So
Yeah.
working with a company, a gentleman that specializes in laying out body shops for body shops, you know what I mean? So like laying the paint booth out and where all the bays are going to be at, so we can optimize all the square footage that we're going to have. So yeah, we're only increasing by 6,000 square feet, but the efficiency of the space is for us. I mean, we'll probably realistically increase by 10,000 square feet because we're going to be able to utilize every square inch of the new facility. Plus parking, like we don't have a whole lot of parking here. Especially when on average we probably have 30 plus vehicles here.
Oh, wow.
Um, on a given day. I mean, we have our paint and body shop. So there's a lot of vehicles that come and go out of there. We have a fabrication shop. We have our upholstery shop. We have our vinyl and window tint shop. We have our accessory shop. We have our transport department. So I mean, essentially, we got almost 6 different businesses that we're running out of one building. So you can begin to imagine, not having the space that we need, even from our employee parking. I mean, we have 30 plus, employees. So I mean, that alone, I mean, we need 30 spots,
Yeah.
at minimum, just for our team to be able to park every morning.
So are you building Dell a studio in this new shop?
No, I mean, we're building an area that Dale will definitely have the ability to always come and shoot a vehicle in a clean environment. When Dale and I first started working in this facility, if you go back and look at some photos, in fact, this Jeep one I'm looking at right now on this canvas, I mean, we were just getting started. So we had some areas in this shop where, we didn't put anything in those areas to keep them clean so Dale could shoot. And
Yeah.
then as we kept growing and growing and growing, there's not an empty spot or a wall that Dale can come in and shoot now. So when he shoots at the shop, there's always some sort of project or something in the background. But the new shop will definitely have an area where Dale can definitely come and do his thing.
How much nicer as a shop owner does it make it having basically a go-to photographer that handles all your needs? I'm sure that makes it easier on your end.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of people I have to credit, um, complete custom success too, and Dell's another one of them. You know what I mean? Dell is taking these vehicles that we've built and just made them look that much more better. You know what I mean? And then as social media started to really, you know, play a part in our growth early on, I mean, most every picture on our Instagram or Facebook pages was shot by, Dell himself. And it was a significant part of our growth. And it just represents complete customs. As far as Dell being able to shoot our vehicles, Dell's worked for me directly twice. Working here at our shop. He's back freelancing now, but he's still our guy. He's still the guy that comes and shoots all of our vehicles and whatnot. So I mean, to me, I think it was a huge blessing. It was able to, again, you go back to the manufacturers that we started working with on the aftermarket side. I mean, they were seeing these images that Dell was able to capture, which gave them the ability to understand what a partnership looks like. Like, hey, not only can we get Complete Customs to build these vehicles for us for SEMA, but then we know we're going to get the content that we need behind it to then turn that into ads or brochures or their websites or whatever. So, I mean, me and Dale built a really good book of business just on that side of the business side of it all. I mean, that's this. Now he shoots for Toyota and Lexus
Yeah.
because of these things that we were doing early on. Planting these seeds early on as far as the vision that me and Dale had back then. I mean, he's living that now. You know what I mean? I've obviously focused on other things now, but it's been awesome to see those seeds that we planted back then now flourish to where Dell is able to freelance and work directly with some of these other OEMs and have these big clients. And at the end of the day, I mean, Dell's got a great eye. As a respected photographer yourself, I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier. I mean, Dell has he has an eye for automotive photography. You know what I mean?
Well, if any of you
That's
guys
why
are
he's still relevant.
if any of you guys, this is your first episode listening to, go back, pull up episode 27, full interview with Dale. Dale goes into the other side of what Shaun's talking about here. like I said, episode 27, you can kind of get both sides of this story together. So, well,
Yep.
if with you going from the small shop to what you're growing to and the stuff you've done,
Mhm.
as a shop owner, entrepreneur like that, what would you give as advice to some young kid or just anybody starting their own shop, thinking, all right, I'm good at what I do, I can put this together, but I'm worried that it'll never grow. What advice would you give them?
And I've been asked this question a few times, and I've probably answered it different every time. And at this stage in my career, where I'm at as a business owner, as a leader to all the great team members that we have here at Complete Customs. Early on, I tried to do it all myself. I had to, you know what I mean? That's what I needed to do to get the business going. I didn't have the resources to really to be able to get it going the way that I wanted to get it going. So I had
Yeah.
to do a lot of it on my own, and I learned a lot. Right, and there's a lot of lessons learned through that process. But if I could give advice to any young entrepreneur, is just, for one, be patient. Right, think outside the box, and don't ever estimate what an opportunity could and couldn't look like. Again, I could have never dreamt up where we're at now, being able to build a new facility. I'll kind of slide the camera over. I mean, that's the new facility that we're going to be building at the beginning of next year. I could have never dreamt that up. I could have never thought that. I mean, again, it goes back to that story I said earlier about Charles Holyobar when he rented this building that we're in now, and telling me one day you're going to be busting out of the seams. I remember thinking how crazy he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he knew it, and how he knew it, I don't know. But then also just getting to a point to where it takes a team to get to where we're at. Right, you can't do this by yourself. So build a good culture first and foremost, and surround yourself with the right people. And if you can do that, whether you're in the automotive business, the photography business, whatever it is that you're in, it's gonna come. You just got to be patient. Right. I've learned a lot, man. I've made a lot of mistakes through the years, but I took accountability in that too. So, again, we're human. We're gonna make mistakes. So own it, take accountability of it, and move on from it, man. You know what I mean? This life we live is short. And I've been blessed to be able to do something that I'm passionate about, as yourself, and probably the people that are going to be listening to this podcast. Us car people do this because we're passionate about it. Most of us don't do it because we're going to make a bunch of money and retire. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And even saying that as the owner of Complete Customs, I'm just thankful my wife has an amazing career, and we can do the things that we could do as a collective group, because it's tough. The automotive industry is tough, but again, we're passionate about it. So, anybody out there that's looking to get in the automotive industry, be patient and surround yourself with the right people, and it'll work out. It'll happen. Excuse me. You just got to be patient. You got to be patient, and you never know what opportunity can be presented to you. And if you're going to do good business, you'll be surprised of what could come of that.
Well, what is Complete Customs planning for SEMA this year? Is there any non-top secret builds you can say that we need to look for? I know there's some that you can't put out there yet, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
what can we look for this year?
Yeah, so I mean, again, going back to SEMA, I mean that's always been, it's an ongoing joke around here. It's like, okay, it's SEMA season, right? I mean, just because we've always been so heavily involved in SEMA. Again, as we've grown, as we've gotten more mature, right, as we've evaluated business decisions a little bit more ethical these days, we've got some really cool stuff in the works. Um, a few that I can't talk about, but I'm excited. When that time comes, and they unveil those, you'll definitely have an opportunity to see those. But we have some in-house projects as well. We're building a new Tundra this year that will be in the Toyota booth. Long travel, kind of tying it back into overlanding and just mountain biking.
Yeah.
I got into mountain biking a few years back, and it's just been a way for me to have a therapeutic way of the everyday grind of life. So we've
Cool.
started dirt therapy cycles. So you'll start to see that pop up a lot more. where we're building just kind of, we're not necessarily building one-off mountain bikes. We're just taking an awesome product already and customizing it, changing some components, custom painting them. Again, just implementing some of the things that we do with a vehicle into the mountain
Yeah.
bike industry. So this particular truck will be kind of that marketing vehicle for Dirt Therapy Cycles. So it's going to be really kitted out with a lot of cool products from the mountain bike industry. Some really cool forbidden matching mountain bikes, long travel suspensions. So I'm excited about that one, obviously, because that's my personal truck, and then it has some meaningful behind it with it being part of Dirt Therapy Cycles. And then we got a handful of other projects that we're working on for some other manufacturers, like aftermarket manufacturers. Again, we still get the calls from
Yeah.
some of the companies that need a specific vehicle for their booth, and if it makes sense for us, then we jump on it. Whether it's a vehicle we purchase, or give one of our clients an opportunity to build a cool vehicle and have it on display at SEMA. So
Well, no, on the mountain bike side of things, the area I'm in Western North Carolina is huge for the mountain bike. So if y'all are ever trying to find some place to go ride, the mountains out here are tons of trails. I like that my legs, aren't broken or my arms aren't broken, so I tend to stay off the bikes. But
yeah.
yeah, this area is huge for that. So
I mean, the mountain bike industry in general is exploded. You know what I mean? It's been on the rise for 20 something years now, but I would say in the last probably 3 to 5 years, and maybe even in the last couple of years, I mean, it has just exploded into one of the biggest industries
yeah,
that I've been able to be a part of. So yeah, I mean, I use it as like I said, as a way to kind of just decompress, and that's how I got into it. Just hitting the trails and being able to focus on riding. And then we've had we had an unfortunate loss this year with one of our team members, and it really hit home. And what our goals were with Dirt Therapy Cycles, it solidified, gave us affirmation of what we wanted to do with that. It was time. So basically, I mean, Dirt Therapy Cycles will the whole story behind it, the premise behind it would be to utilize mountain biking as a way to cope with things, and not lean towards other things that
yeah.
certain individuals might lean towards. So yeah, very, very excited about the mountain bike industry, how it's growing across the nation, across the world. And we just got back from Whistler, Canada, a couple of weeks ago. We were up there for Crankworks, which is like the SEMA of mountain biking. And I mean, already having the passion that I have for it and seeing how much it's grown, but then being there in the mix of that, and the mix of Crankworks was just like, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And then
Well,
now we're being able to parallel the automotive industry back into that. And I think that's where we kind of have a little bit of niche to where we can bring more, more people from the overlanding, off-roading automotive community into the mountain bike community. A lot of them are already crossed over. It's not like
yeah.
we're doing anything different. I just think we're able to do it on a much higher level and get it presented on a much higher level too, in hopes that we can connect a lot of dots in both industries from a business standpoint, but then also from just engagement with the mountain bike culture and the automotive culture.
Well, if you're going to have your personal truck there with the bike on it, I might suggest you use 3, 4, maybe 5 locks on the one this year. So this year you
Oh
don't have one
man.
go disappearing.
Yeah, definitely. We've already we've hired a security team, because we're going to have 4 bikes at this point right now that'll be custom built. So yeah, we're not going to let happen what happened last year.
Did you ever
That
find
was
that one?
no, man. I never found it. Nobody ever. We built another bike just like it, right?
Yeah.
So we matched it. All the companies that we had worked with on that particular build for SEMA last year, they jumped right back on board. So we basically duplicated that bike, right? And I remember that night that it happened. I flew in on Monday to SEMA. I was at a dinner with Toyota, which they were the ones that obviously got us the space for the vehicle. And it was for the people that don't know, it was a 2023 Toyota Sequoia with a matching forbidden mountain bike. And I never saw the bike. We actually worked with a company called SpokeX out in Torrance, California. They hand delivered it to Vegas, straight to Dale. Matter of fact, Dale
Yeah.
and Eric were out in the desert shooting it Monday afternoon. I flew in, went straight to dinner. And while I was at dinner, one of my guys called me and goes, "Hey, the mountain bike is gone." And they had just moved it into the convention center about 3 hours before this. So I'm like, what do you mean it's gone, right? And we're again, we're a family owned business, so we prank every now and
Yeah.
again, and we have some fun. But I could tell, this particular phone call, the tone of his voice, something wasn't right, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like,
It's
somebody
inside. It's
came.
locked up. How can it be gone?
Exactly, right? We were inside the convention center. It was locked up and whatever. So needless to say, somebody had some bolt cutters, cut the cables, and stole the bike. I never saw the bike. I never got a chance to sit on the bike. And it was gone. So that sucked. That was not the way that I wanted to start SEMA last year. And the guys from Spoke X, which were awesome to work with, they're the ones that really helped us put that whole bike build together, and is now one of our good partners. It was a younger guy, Hunter, and he actually brought his family out. And I remember the next night eating dinner with him, and I said, "You know what, man?" I said, "I know this stinks. We're not ever going to be able to get this time back to be able to display this bike on the platform that it was going to be on this week." I said, "But I promise you, something good is going to come from this." And let me tell you what, man, there's been so much that has come good from that
Nice.
situation to today's date that I can't even. That's a whole nother podcast. Let's just put it to you this way: we built another bike that was identical to that bike, and we ended up raffling or auctioning that bike off in Whistler, Canada, 2 weeks ago at Crankworks, and we raised $7,500 for the World Relief Bicycle Foundation, which is a really cool foundation. They basically buy bikes for any type of situation, whether it's a community at need or a country at need. Like it's just an amazing foundation. So we were able to take that negative situation
Nice.
and turn that into a positive situation, plus build these relationships with these companies in the mountain bike industry to where ultimately it was a gateway for us to open up dirt therapy cycles. So, an unfortunate situation, but we've turned it into a positive situation over this past year. And then now we'll have 4 fully built mountain bikes at SEMA, working with all the same companies that we initially worked with last year.
Nice. I remember when you posted though that the bike had been stolen, like everybody and their brothers shared it, like trying to find it.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was cool to see that the community stood behind that
Oh, it
to
did.
try to help out with that.
It did, and again, it opened up so many doors with other people in the industry on both sides. And again, I remember having that conversation with my friend Hunter that night, and his mom and his dad. And I was like, "Look, man, I can't. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm super bummed. We're all bummed. It sucks. They'd put a lot of heart into that build as well to match it up to the Sequoia that our team had built, and it was devastating, man. And again, me knowing where back in 2008, how I felt to come to SEMA, and I could see that in his eyes, as a young entrepreneur, on the mountain bike side of things, and there was nothing I could tell him, but I was 100% confident that we would turn that situation into something positive, and boy, have we.
So it sounds like with the adventures you got going, the new shop and the SEMA stuff, uh, where else do you see Complete Customs going from here? Do you have anything else in the works that you're wanting to jump on? Or are you just going to ride it out and see where it goes?
Man, I think at this point in my career and my age, and I got 2 younger girls at home. I got an 11-year-old and a 2-year-old. I'm pretty content, to be honest with you. We've been significantly blessed with the opportunities that we've had come our way. At this point, I'd love to just you know dial in what we're already doing, and just enjoy it, man. Be able to get back to designing some vehicles, and just doing some really cool builds, but then still handling our retail stuff. I mean, again, we essentially we got 3 businesses in under one roof. We have paint and body, which that's part of us moving will help us grow the collision side of that. So getting
Yeah.
more into that side of the paint and body space, that there's longevity in that. Building, our build shop, our accessory shop. Like we've kind of gotten away from the accessories, the retail side of things. So being able to get that back going with our new location, that'll be cool. And that way, because I hear it all the time. A lot of people will be like, oh man, like they're too big to build my leveling kit with wheels and tires and steps. Like, no, we're not. I mean, that's what started us. And so again, getting back into that retail side, getting going on the paint and body side, I think that's probably the next direction for us. And that's definitely how we've designed and laid out our new facility, to be able to do that. And then, yeah, just continue to do the other things that we do, and just get better at it.
Gotcha. Well, how do people find you online if they want to try to get some work done with you or just kind of see the projects you're involved with? How do they find you?
Yeah, so Instagram, obviously, Facebook, Complete Customs. I think our Instagram is Complete Customs LLC. We're actually in the process of building a new website. So our current website is completecustoms.net. But we are working right now on going live with our new website, which will be completecustoms.com. So I mean, basically put in Complete Customs in Google, and it's going to pull up all of our,
Yeah.
our different social media outlets. You'll find stuff on YouTube, all of our videos that we used to make. We're going to get more involved into creating more content. We've kind of gotten away from it, but definitely starting to pick all that stuff back up. A lot of stuff we haven't really been posting on like even social media, but getting back to that. But I mean, definitely, start with social media, and from there you'll start to see our new links for all of our new things that we got in the works, from our website to our YouTube channels and stuff like that.
They can also pull up. I'm sure you can Google Complete Customs Ferrari Killer, and it'll probably pull up plenty of that.
Yeah, that'll pull up. I haven't looked at the video in a while, but at one point I want to say it was like 20 million views or something like that. Unfortunately, YouTube didn't send me no plaque or send me no
You
check,
didn't get a
but
silver disc.
I didn't get nothing. I didn't get nothing. I got a bill from Cato, and that was about it. But what is that saying? I guess not bad publicity is good publicity, or something of that effect. Like, I mean, we definitely turned a negative situation again back then into
For
something
sure.
positive. With the exposure that we got, within 30 seconds of it happening, it was crazy.
Yep. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on. You kind of give a different perspective than a photographer would, or someone that's a fabricator or whatever. You have a different network, a different, I guess, layout in what you do. A lot of people would love to do a shop. So to see someone like you go from something small, that quick to blow up, and to be involved with what you did early, and to meet up with you early like that was pretty cool. So appreciate you coming on and telling your story, and definitely look forward to seeing what you're debuting at SEMA this year. And like I said, don't forget me when Toyota has something in my area, for sure.
My man. Well, I greatly appreciate your time, and congratulations to everything that you got going on, and that leap of
Appreciate
faith that you took in your career, man. It's been cool to watch you go through, the process of working for corporate America to following your passion and your dream, man. So keep doing what you're doing, man.
it. I appreciate you coming on. I guess we'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.